We're working with Castor again, and we're going to do a bit of desensitizing to fly spray and then get him ready for some vaccines. So again, I'm just going to show him the bottle, click and feed him, and every time he sees the bottle and the fly spray bottle, I'm going to repeat what I did last time. So it's going to be the same process over and over and over again until it's completely solid, and then I'll start cutting out parts. So he starts with targeting it, and then I spray a little bit away from him, and then he gets a reward, and then I get closer and closer and closer, and then I go through each body part and reward the whole time. And then over time, I'll just show him the bottle, and then I'll spray the whole horse, or I usually do half side, give him a treat, and then the other half side. So he stands perfectly fine for that right now. But this process worked the best. I've had other horses that have had fly spray for years and they absolutely hate it, and both my Mustangs stand every time, and they're fantastic for it because they have um, no bad experiences whatsoever. So that definitely makes a huge difference. But um, I'm just kind of working my way back. Every spray, he's getting click and he's getting food. So he is doing excellent, and he's just understanding that when the spray bottle sprays, it's not terrifying. It means something great's going to happen, and he's going to get some food. So I'm just going to hang out for a second and let him chew because I don't want him to have too much food in his mouth. And just spray a little bit on his leg, and I'm just going to kind of work my way down. So I kind of start like on his neck or his shoulder, and some horses are better if you start on their legs. It just kind of depends. But one of those two areas, and then I kind of work my way back down his back, on his hindquarters, and his back legs, and I just never spray them in the face. I wipe fly spray on his face with my hands. So, and he's great with that too. Got a little scared there. That's all right. I just want to make sure I'm not going too fast. There, and he was fine. So I might have bumped it on the gate there, and that scared him. So it wasn't necessarily the spray bottle, but it was the combination of both. See, now he's back to being great. So that's fantastic. Like, that's what I want. Sometimes things happen, noises happen, things jump out of bushes and whatnot, but it's the response afterward that I'm looking for. And his response here is perfect. He's just like, okay, I'm fine. Instead of escalating it to all the behaviors we don't want to see, like running away and rearing and kicking out and all that stuff. We're practicing it now in these little everyday tasks, but it's going to transfer over to when I start riding him. Everything is connected. So all of this is important to do well, even though it's just fly spray. It's connected to everything else. So I'm just going to keep going through here and work my way down his hindquarters. And I just want to show the whole process here. But I want to show the whole process. So if you want to try this, none of the pieces are cut out, and you can do the same process. So um, it's going to be a little bit different if you have a domestic horse, just because they might have a lot of emotions attached to it that Castor doesn't, because this is a new stimulus for him. So have a little bit of an advantage there because he doesn't know what it means. Once you have all that baggage and a horse is like, okay, well, every time a spray bottle comes out, I'm held tightly, or I'm made to stand still, and it's scary, and they don't like it, and it really can take a lot of time to fix. So with those horses, I go very, very slow, which can be hard because especially when you're doing the fly spray, you're like, okay, well, I'm helping you, making it better. You're trying to complete a task in your mind of just spraying the horse. You're just like, hold still while I do this, but it makes it not get any better. You can be holding and fly spraying the whole horse for their entire life, and they will still hate it. So it's important to break it down in this process. One little spray, he gets a reward. So that's really important. And then some horses are just more sensitive than others. Like, this can be a uncomfortable process, or might tickle them or feel weird on their skin just because it's landing on there. I've found that with my more sensitive horses, I kind of angle the spray nozzle up, like, so there's a slight angle, not horizontal or not completely vertical, but between vertical and horizontal on their back. And that works really well for spraying. He seems to do better with that, but it might be a horse by horse basis, so I'm just not completely sure on that. But just kind of mess around with how you're holding it, and then go from there, really, and see what the horse likes best. So I'm just going to repeat the process on this right side, and I'll go over it in a little bit more detail here. So just kind of talking about the process in general when I was on the left side there. So he sees the spray bottle. I want him to target it, and then I'm going to spray kind of away from his body, and kind of depending on your horse, that's going to depend on how far away. And since I had just sprayed him on the left side, I just went ahead and sprayed him gently on the neck there. Depending on your horse, you might have to spray all the way. Like if your arm's out completely straight away from your body, you might have to start all the way over there, work your way all the way to the shoulder, and then start spraying. Castor was relaxed and not worried about the process whatsoever, so I just went ahead and sprayed him on the neck. So it really depends on the horse, watching their body language, how do they feel about the whole process. Here I'm just giving him a minute to chew and hang out. It is also important that they kind of have that time in between to where they're not feeling so rushed about it. And it wasn't as super important here with the Mustangs that I've found it is with the domestic horses. A lot of them don't like the spraying, and if you just continue spraying, they just get worse and worse and worse. So if you like spray once or twice and then let them hang out, eat their treat, and then spray again, they seem to do better. So here I'm just spraying a few more times because he's been so good on that other side. I'm just kind of expediting the process a little bit, and that can be tricky because your horse might be not on the same level as this one, and you might have to spray once, give him a treat, wait, spray once, give him a treat, wait, and do that whole body, and then slowly spray twice, do the whole treat, and do that all the way. But for him, all his body language looks calm. He's got a nice horizontal top line, his ears are moving, he's nice and relaxed, he's taking the food. So I just went ahead and did some more spraying, and that's proving to me here how he's handling it, that he's ready for that. If I went ahead and did like a couple sprays and he got really tight and tense, or he moved and walked away, or his head came up, that would be a key to me, or a clue to me, that I've gone too fast and that I need to slow down, and that he's not ready for that. So ideally I want to pay attention to his body language, read him correctly, know my horse, and not get him to where he's tense. But sometimes, you read it wrong, or you think he's ready, or he even show you that he's ready, and then when you do end up going a little bit further, they get a little tense. But again, it's important to notice that then and be like, okay, well, he's showing me that he is tense. I recognize that, and I can go back a step before it gets to where he's over threshold and he's just way too tense to learn. So all those are really important. But he did excellent for only seeing that spray bottle a few times. So that looks really great. I'm just gonna have him turn around, and we're gonna work on some shot prep. So um, instead of having the vet come out and do it, I was just gonna do it myself. I do my other horses myself, and especially with the Mustangs, they're very one single person oriented, and I'm working on that. But for right now, I'm gonna vaccinate them. So I'm just gonna give them a little pinch, and then I'm gonna click and give them a treat. So I kind of use my nails. I want it to feel like the actual shot and kind of mimic that as much as possible. You can also use like a paper clip, or like maybe a needle that you would use, like a sewing needle, and that really mimics it well. But this is the first step. I just kind of stroke him like I would before I give him the vaccine, and then I pinch, and then I kind of hold a little bit longer each time, or maybe after a few times, just to kind of mimic how long it would go ahead and take for me to give this actual shot. So little baby steps. This is quite the process with Castor. He was a little bit harder to do than Atlas, but I also filmed a lot more of it because it was harder. So this is the very beginning of the whole process, but you'll see over all the videos, all the steps that I went through. There's my needle. Um, to get to the end result with him. So it is quite interesting. It was frustrating at the time, but it definitely paid off, and it worked well for him, and I think the protective contact really helped. So here's my needle, so I'm going to do the same thing and just press it into his neck, and he was fantastic. So it's really important to make sure that the horse is staying relaxed. He looks great here. He's not getting too worried and wanting to move away. He like flinched a little bit earlier. That looks great, but overall he looks really good. Go ahead and do it again. So I want to try to mimic that same process that I would with having the two hands kind of pinching the skin. and then I'm using my needle to press in where I would hold the vaccine.